Ladies and gentlemen, you ever notice how the world never stops throwing stuff at you? It's relentless. Stress, pressure, opinions, chaos, noise. And most people, they're out here reacting to everything, like walking antennas, picking up every signal, every vibe, every criticism. But here's the trick. Act as if nothing affects you. That's not about being cold. That's power. That's presence. That's control. To act as if nothing affects you doesn't mean you're empty inside or immune to feeling. It means you've decided what holds value in your mind and what doesn't. It's not emotional ignorance. It's emotional mastery. There's a huge difference between suppressing emotions and transcending them. Most people let the world decide how they feel. They're tossed around by moods, words, and judgments like a leaf in the wind. But when you act as if nothing affects you, you're anchoring yourself. You're choosing not to be moved by temporary storms. This mindset is built on self-awareness. It's realizing that your internal state is your responsibility. No one else gets to dictate how you feel or who you are. People might say hurtful things. Life might throw pain your way. But your response, that's yours. That's your weapon. That's your edge. And in the Bible, we are said, guard your heart above all else, for everything you do flows from it. That's not just poetry, that's strategy. It's a battle plan for emotional dominance. When you act as if nothing affects you, you're not ignoring the world, you're understanding it, you're stepping back, you're observing instead of absorbing. There's strength in that stillness. The world wants a reaction, it feeds on it. But silence, calmness, that disrupts everything, confuses the enemy. It gives you power in a space where others lose it. Some might call it coldness, but it's clarity. You don't react to nonsense because your energy is sacred. You don't chase validation because you know your worth. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. And this way of living isn't foreign to the spiritual path either. In the Bible, we are said, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's the core, renewing the mind, training it to hold still while the world burns loud around it. It's a form of rebellion too, a refusal to let anything outside of you control the inside of you. When you act as if nothing affects you, you're not pretending, remembering that you were created with power, not panic, with dominion, not dependency. And the more you walk in that truth, the less the world shakes you. People expect you to fold. They want your reaction. But when you stay steady, when you don't flinch, they see something different in you. Something they don't understand but deeply respect. You become the quiet one in the room full of noise. The flame that doesn't flicker, the rock in the tide. And slowly, you stop acting like nothing affects you because it actually doesn't. You've become immune not by building walls, but by growing roots. Staying emotionally unshakable isn't about being emotionless. It's about choosing which emotions deserve your energy. Most people walk through life as if they're made of glass, letting every comment, every glance, every moment of discomfort leave a crack. But strength isn't found in reacting to everything. It's found in mastering your response to anything. That's how you become grounded, not in theory, but in how you actually carry yourself every day. The noise will always be there. People will project their own fears, insecurities, and bitterness onto you. That's not something you can stop. But what you can do is stop letting it reach your core. The power lies not in controlling the world, but in controlling what part of it gets access to your peace. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's knowing that even when it's not, you are. That's the unshakable mindset. To stay emotionally rooted, you got to develop a kind of internal filter. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every trigger needs to be pulled. And you start by practicing pause, that space between stimulus and reaction, that moment where you breathe instead of break. In the Bible, we are said, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. That's not just good advice. That's a blueprint for mental strength. The weak react fast. The strong process, then choose. When you learn to slow your reactions, you're not repressing emotion. You're reframing it. You're saying, I see this, but it doesn't define me. I feel this, but it doesn't control me. That's real power. And you only get there by being brutally honest with yourself, by facing your emotional habits and asking, am I in charge of my feelings or are they in charge of me? Emotional stability also comes from trusting something deeper than yourself. It comes from realizing that peace isn't a result of everything going right. It's a choice you make in the middle of the storm. In the Bible, we are said, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. That's the source, not the chaos around you, but the calm within you. You can walk through fire if the fire isn't inside you. You can face betrayal, loss, failure, and still stand tall if you don't let those moments shape your identity. That kind of emotional resilience isn't gifted, it's built. It's built in silence, in solitude, in those moments no one sees where you decide not to crumble. You might feel pain, but you don't let it become your personality. You might be tested, but you don't lose your center. The world tries to throw you off balance emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But when you're anchored in truth and faith and awareness, nothing moves you unless you allow it. That's what emotional strength looks like. Not loud, not flashy, but unmovable. Mental toughness isn't about being the loudest in the room or forcing yourself to fake strength. It's about showing up day after day when no one's watching, when nothing's easy, when everything inside you wants to quit, and you still move forward. It's doing what needs to be done without needing applause for it. It's not glamorous. It's discipline. It's grit. It's waking up and saying, I may not feel like it, but I'm built for this. That's the kind of mindset that carries you through the mess life throws at you. Every single day you're faced with situations that demand your reaction. People will test your patience, plans will fall apart, fear will whisper in your ear, and most people fold, not because they're weak, but because they haven't trained their mind. See, your body can take more than you think. Your spirit is wired for endurance, but your mind, that's the battlefield. That's where the fight is won or lost. And you don't win by avoiding pressure. You win by walking straight into it and holding your ground. Mental toughness means choosing growth over comfort. It's saying no to temporary pleasure in favor of long-term purpose. It's learning to stay calm when everything screams panic. It's turning failure into fuel. In the Bible, we are said suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. That's the path. You suffer, you endure, and through that you build something unshakable. Not just toughness for one moment, but a mindset that can't be broken over time. You build this toughness through the little choices no one sees. The morning you get out of bed when your mind says, stay down. The moment you hold your tongue when your pride wants to lash out. The time you choose truth over convenience. Every time you pick discipline over distraction. You train your mind to obey your mission, not your mood. And don't confuse toughness with heartlessness. Real toughness is full of heart. It loves deeply, but it doesn't get crushed. It trusts, but it doesn't lose itself. It forgives, but it never forgets its worth. It gives, but from a full place, not an empty one. In the Bible, we are said, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Mental toughness is knowing the harvest is coming, even if all you see right now is dry ground. When life doesn't go as planned, and it won't. Mental toughness keeps you steady. It reminds you that storms are temporary, that failure isn't fatal, and that your calling is bigger than your current challenge. You become someone who can take a hit and still move forward. Someone who doesn't need things to be easy in order to stay committed. That's the difference between those who break under pressure and those who bend and bounce back stronger. Building an untouchable mindset doesn't mean you're numb or distant. It means you've built something so deep within yourself that no chaos from the outside world can shake it. It means you've done the inner work, the quiet, invisible, relentless work that makes you solid where others are scattered. You're not looking for peace in the world, you've become peace in the world, and that kind of mind isn't gifted to you, it's built, layer by layer, fight by fight, thought by thought. Most people are reacting to life, their mindset shifts with the wind. One insult ruins their day, one failure erases their purpose, one delay crushes their hope. That's a fragile mind, and a fragile mind can never lead a strong life. An untouchable mindset isn't about ego, it's about clarity. You know who you are, and more importantly, who you're not. You're not your mistakes, you're not other people's opinions, you're not your fears, your past, or your pressure. You're something deeper, something grounded. In the Bible, we are said, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. That's where it starts, a mind fixed, not floating. To build that kind of mindset, you have to stop feeding it garbage. Every time you dwell on what you can't control, every time you allow negativity to repeat in your head like a broken song, you weaken your foundation. But when you decide that your thoughts will serve you, not sabotage you, things change. That's where the building begins. You get selective about what you allow into your mental space. You protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You learn to detach without becoming cold. You see things for what they are, but you refuse to let them poison your energy. You stop arguing with what is and start aligning with what could be. You move different, talk different, think different, and that difference isn't fake. It's forged in silence, struggle, and surrender. In the Bible, we are said, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. That's not just spiritual advice. That's tactical. That's how you train your mind, not to panic, but to pray, not to spiral, but to surrender. The world doesn't get quieter. The noise doesn't stop, but your mind gets stronger. And when the world tries to pull you into its chaos, you don't move. You observe, you breathe, you respond with wisdom instead of reaction. People start to notice that. They don't know what it is, but they can feel it, that calm, that focus, that unshakable energy. And that comes from building a mind that no longer gets hijacked by the temporary, a mind that knows its mission, a mind that sees the storm but never lets the storm inside. That's the level most won't reach, not because they can't, but because they won't choose the discipline it takes to build it. Most people live like walking pressure cookers. One wrong word, one delay, one inconvenience, and they explode. That's not strength. That's slavery to emotion. True strength is measured by your ability to respond with intention instead of reacting with impulse. There's a massive difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is reflex, it's emotional, it's usually messy. Responding is conscious, it's steady, and it reflects control. That difference determines whether you live a life that's chaotic or composed. The reason so many people get stuck in cycles of regret is because they react without thinking, they let the moment dictate the message, and later they try to clean up what they could have prevented if they had just paused. That pause, that's where power lives. That second where you feel yourself getting triggered and you breathe instead of lash out, that's the sign of someone in control of their spirit. In the Bible, we are said, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. That doesn't mean silence makes you weak. It means wisdom makes you strong enough to pick your battles. It's easy to throw your emotions around like confetti, but it's costly. Every time you let anger or fear decide your move, you give away your authority. You trade peace for drama. You trade clarity for chaos. You say, this thing owns me, but when you respond, when you consciously choose how to move, you reclaim that power. You don't just live, you lead. You become a thermostat, not a thermometer. You set the temperature. You don't just reflect it. This doesn't mean you ignore your emotions or bottle them up. It means you learn how to manage them like a responsible guardian. Your emotions are signals, not steering wheels. They can inform you, but they don't get to drive. You take what they're saying, process it, and respond in a way that aligns with who you are, not what the moment is tempting you to become. In the Bible, we are said, like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. A person without self-control is defenseless. They're constantly under attack, and they let every attack get inside. But when you build walls not to shut people out, but to filter what gets in, you start to own your reactions instead of being owned by them. This practice of responding takes work. It takes self-awareness, patience, humility. You don't master it in a day, but every time you choose response over reaction, you strengthen that muscle. You start catching yourself mid-sentence, mid-thought, mid-frustration, and redirecting. That's the kind of work that no one applauds, but it's the work that changes lives. Not just yours, but the people around you, because a steady person in a storm is contagious. Their calm spreads, their peace influences. That's how you shift rooms, relationships, even futures, not by reacting louder, but by responding wiser. Calm isn't something you find when the world finally slows down. It's something you create while everything around you is falling apart. In a chaotic world where people are addicted to urgency, pressure, noise, and drama, choosing calm is an act of rebellion. It's not weakness, it's mastery. The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The one who speaks least, who watches, who waits, who listens, that's often the one holding the most power. Because calm people see what others miss. They're not rushing to react. They're grounded enough to respond with clarity. The world will always find ways to unsettle you. News cycles, financial stress, conflict, uncertainty, it's nonstop. You could spend your whole life chasing a sense of control out there, only to realize the real battle is in here, inside your own mind, inside your own choices. Peace isn't found in perfect circumstances. It's found in steady alignment. In the Bible, we are said, let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, not visit, not pass through, rule. That means letting peace be the authority that guides how you speak, think, act, and decide. Calm doesn't mean indifferent. It means you've built something deep enough inside you that temporary storms don't uproot you. It means you've accepted that chaos is part of the game, but panic doesn't have to be. When everyone else is running, you stay still. When everything else is noisy, you go quiet. Not because you're ignoring the moment, but because you've learned to move from a place of center, not confusion. Living calm in a chaotic world requires brutal self-honesty. You have to face the patterns that make you spiral, the thoughts that drag you down, the distractions you run to, the arguments you start to feel in control. You break that cycle by reminding yourself what actually matters, not how fast you respond, not how loud you shout, but how deeply you live. Calm isn't passive, it's intentional. It takes courage to slow down when the world is speeding up. It takes strength to listen when everyone's shouting. It takes faith to trust the process when everything looks unstable. In the Bible, we are said, be still and know that I am God, that stillness isn't silence, it's certainty. You carry that calm by returning to yourself again and again, by not letting every crisis steal your breath, by not allowing every headline to own your heart. You begin to understand that just because everything outside is shaking doesn't mean you have to. Just because the world is chaotic doesn't mean you can't walk through it with a quiet mind and a steady soul. That's not detachment. That's discipline. You become the one who brings calm into rooms that don't have it. Not because life is easy, but because you've trained yourself to remain unshaken even when it's not. That's the real superpower in a world that never stops moving.